She doesn't live here anymore. That's what my son told the police while I was standing right behind him, on my own front porch. I didn't say anything at first. I just stood there holding my purse, staring at the front door I'd walked through every day for the past 32 years. The same door my husband painted blue the summer before he passed. The same porch where I used to sit every morning with my coffee. And now, I was being told I didn't belong there. Officer Daniel Brooks glanced at me, then back at my son, David. Sir, are you saying she's trespassing? David didn't hesitate. Yes. She doesn't live here anymore. I've already asked her to leave. I almost laughed. Almost. But I didn't. I just watched him. My own son. 40 years old. Standing there like he owned the world. Like he owned me. Mom, he said, turning to me like I was the problem. You're making this harder than it needs to be. Harder. I felt something cold settle in my chest. Not anger. Not yet. Just clarity. David, I said quietly. What are you doing? He sighed like I was embarrassing him. Like I was some confused old woman who didn't understand what was going on. I already explained this. The house is in my name now. You can't just stay here anymore. I didn't react. I didn't argue. I let him talk. Big mistake. Officer Brooks shifted his weight slightly. Ma'am, do you have any documentation showing you live here? I looked at him for a second, then back at David. He was so confident. Too confident. That was the first thing I noticed. The second was how fast everything had happened. 2 days ago, he was calling me every morning, asking if I needed groceries, offering to help with paperwork, saying things like, you shouldn't have to deal with all that legal stuff on your own. I remember sitting at the kitchen table, signing a few documents he handed me. Nothing unusual, he said. Just routine updates. I trusted him. He's my son. Or at least, I thought I did. Now here he was, calling the police on me, telling them I didn't live in my own house. Ma'am, Officer Brooks said again. I could feel the neighbors watching, curtains moving, people pretending not to stare. I didn't rush. I didn't panic. I reached into my purse slowly. David watched me, arms crossed, already sure he'd won. You don't need to do this, he muttered. Just take your things and go. I looked at him, really looked at him, and for the first time, I didn't see my son. I saw a stranger who thought he had all the power. I pulled out a folded set of papers. Still calm, still quiet. Officer, I said, handing them over. I think you should take a look at this first. Officer Brooks took the papers from my hand, slow and careful, like he already knew this was not going to be simple. David let out a quiet laugh under his breath. It is outdated, he said quickly. She does not understand how the transfer works. I already filed everything. I did not look at him. I kept my eyes on the officer. He unfolded the documents, scanning the first page, then the second. His expression did not change much, but he stopped talking. That was enough for me. David shifted beside him. Like I said, he continued a little louder now, the property was transferred to me this week. She signed the paperwork herself. That part was true. I had signed something. I remembered the pen in my hand, the way he stood across from me at the kitchen table, pointing where I should initial. Just routine updates, he said. Nothing major. I trusted him. I trusted my own son. Officer Brooks flipped to another page. Sir, he said calmly, when exactly did you say this transfer happened? 3 days ago, David replied without hesitation. Everything is already processed. 3 days. I almost smiled. He was moving fast. Too fast. And you are saying she no longer has any legal right to be here? The officer asked. Correct. David crossed his arms again, like he was closing the case himself. She is refusing to leave. I could feel the weight of every eye on that porch. Neighbors pretending to check their mail. A car slowing down just enough to watch. I stayed still. I did not rush to defend myself. I let the silence sit there. Let it grow. Officer Brooks looked back down at the papers. He read one line again. Then again. That was when David's confidence started to crack, just a little. Is there a problem? He asked. The officer did not answer right away. Instead, he turned one more page, then looked up at me. Ma'am, How long have you owned this property? Since 1993, I said. My voice was steady. No hesitation. My husband and I bought it together. After he passed, everything remained in my name. David shook his head immediately. That is not accurate. I have the updated documents inside. I can show you. He stepped toward the door, reaching for the handle like he already owned it, like he had every right to walk in and prove me wrong. Officer Brooks raised a hand slightly. Hold on a second, sir. David froze. Just for a moment. I just need to verify something here, the officer continued, tapping the paper lightly. I watched David's face. The confidence was still there, but now there was something else under it. Pressure. He did not expect this. He thought this would be quick. Clean. Easy. He thought I would just leave. I let out a slow breath. I had seen this coming the moment he started rushing me with paperwork. The moment he stopped explaining and started insisting. That was when I made a call. One quiet call he did not know about. Officer, I said softly, you might want to check the recording date on that document. David's head snapped toward me. What? He said sharply. I did not look at him. Not yet. Second page, I added. Bottom line. The officer's eyes dropped back to the paper. And just like that, everything started to change. Officer Brooks' finger stopped at the bottom line. I saw it happen before he said a single word. That tiny pause. That second look. That was all I needed. Sir, he said slowly, still looking at the paper. This document is dated 6 months ago. David blinked. That is not possible, he said immediately. Too fast. Too defensive. It was processed this week. The officer did not argue. He simply turned the paper around and showed him. The notarization date is right here, he said. 6 months ago. And it clearly states this is a review copy, not a finalized transfer. Silence. Real silence this time. The kind that makes everything feel heavier. I could hear a car driving past. Someone across the street closing a door. David stared at the paper like it had just betrayed him. That does not make sense. He muttered. She signed it. I saw her sign it. I nodded slightly. Yes, I said. I did. He turned to me, frustration rising. Then why does it say that? I held his gaze for a moment. Calm. Steady. Because that was not a transfer, I said. That was a draft. His face tightened. No. That is not what you said. You agreed. I agreed to let my lawyer review it. I cut in quietly. He stopped. Just for a second. That was the crack. The moment everything started slipping out of his control. Officer Brooks looked between us. Ma'am, do you have any additional documentation? I reached into my purse again. This time I took my time. No rush. No panic. David watched every movement now. No more confidence. Just tension. I pulled out another envelope. Thicker. Sealed. This is the finalized record, I said, handing it to the officer. Filed and confirmed last week. David shook his head, stepping closer. What is that? He asked. His voice was not steady anymore. What did you do? I did not answer him. I let the officer open it. Paper slid against paper. A quiet sound, but it cut through everything. He scanned the first page. Then the second. Then he stopped. Again. That same pause. But this time it lasted longer. Sir, he said, looking up at David. According to this, the property remains solely under her name. David froze. Completely. That is not possible, he said again, but now it sounded different. Smaller. There must be a mistake. The officer shook his head once. It is filed with the county. Verified. There is no record of any ownership transfer to you. I watched my son as the truth landed. Slowly. Painfully. Like he was trying to hold on to something that was already gone. No, he said under his breath. No, she signed it. She signed everything. I finally looked at him fully. I signed a draft, I said. And then I made a phone call. His eyes snapped to mine. What phone call? I took a small breath. Not for courage. Just to steady the moment. The kind that makes sure I understand what I am signing, I said. Before it is too late. He stepped back slightly. Not much. Just enough to show he felt it. The shift. The loss of control. Officer Brooks folded the documents carefully. "Sir," he said, voice firm now, "based on what I am seeing, she is the legal owner of this property, which means she has every right to be here." Another pause. Then the question that changed everything. "Do you live here?" David opened his mouth, then stopped. No answer came out. And that said more than anything else. David opened his mouth again, but nothing came out. For the first time since he showed up at my door, he did not have an answer ready. Officer Brooks waited. Calm. Patient. "Sir," he repeated. David shifted his weight, glancing at the door behind him like it might somehow help him. I was going to move in," he said finally. Weak. Uncertain. Not the confident voice from a few minutes ago. The officer nodded slightly, like he had heard that before. "But as of right now you do not reside here?" he asked. David hesitated. That pause said everything. "No," he admitted under his breath. And just like that it was over. The balance flipped completely. Officer Brooks turned to me, his tone changing. More respectful now. Clear. "Ma'am," he said, "since you are the legal owner and current resident, you have full authority over who is allowed on this property." I nodded once. I already knew that. But I let him say it. Let David hear it. Let it settle in. David let out a sharp breath. "This is ridiculous," he said, running a hand through his hair. "There has to be some kind of mistake. She agreed to this. She knew what she was signing." I looked at him. Calm. Unmoved. "I knew exactly what I was signing," I said. "That is why I did not let you rush me." His jaw tightened. "You said you trusted me." That one almost made me pause. Almost. "I did," I said quietly. "That was my mistake." The words landed harder than anything else. No yelling. No anger. Just the truth. Officer Brooks stepped slightly between us, not aggressively, just enough to keep things clear. "Sir, at this point, you need to understand that you cannot remove her from this property. Legally, you have no authority here." David laughed again, but there was no confidence left in it. "So what? She just gets to pretend none of this happened." I did not respond right away. I let the silence stretch again. He was unraveling on his own. No help needed. "No," I said finally. "Nothing is being ignored." He looked at me, searching for something. Maybe an opening. Maybe forgiveness. I did not give him either. "Then what are you saying?" he asked. I took a slow breath. The porch felt different now. Lighter. Like something had shifted back into place. "I am saying," I replied, "that you tried to make a decision that was not yours to make." Officer Brooks glanced at me, then back at David. "Sir, I am going to ask you one more time," he said firmly. "Do you have permission from the homeowner to be here right now?" The question hung in the air. Simple. Direct. Final. David looked at me. Really looked this time. Not like I was an obstacle. Not like I was confused. But like he was finally seeing exactly who he was dealing with. I held his gaze. No anger. No hesitation. Just certainty. He swallowed. "No," he said quietly. And that was it. The moment everything turned completely in my favor. Officer Brooks nodded once. "Then I am going to need you to step off the property." David did not move right away. He stood there, frozen between what he thought he had and what he had just lost. Then slowly he stepped back. Off the porch. Off my property. And for the first time that morning, I felt like I was finally standing in my own home again. David stood there at the edge of the walkway like he was waiting for something to change, like the ground might shift back under his feet if he just did not move. It did not. Officer Brooks stayed where he was, calm but firm, watching him without saying another word. He did not need to. The situation was already clear. I stepped forward slightly, not past the doorway, just enough to feel the sun on my face again. Felt different now. Warmer. Lighter. Like something heavy had finally lifted. David looked at me again. There was no anger left this time. Just confusion. And something else. Something closer to regret. "Mom," he said, quieter now, "you did not have to do all that." I almost smiled. Almost. "I did not," I replied. "You did." He shook his head. running both hands through his hair this time. I was trying to help. He said. You cannot manage all of this on your own forever. I let that sit for a second. Then I nodded slowly. You are right, I said. That caught him off guard. He blinked. What? I said you are right, I repeated. I cannot manage everything forever. He took a small step forward, hope flickering back into his expression. Exactly. That is all I was saying. We could have handled this differently. I held up a hand, not aggressive, just enough to stop him. But helping me does not mean taking control away from me, I said. His face tightened again. That is not what I was doing. I did not argue. I did not raise my voice. I just looked at him and let the silence do the work. He looked away first. Officer Brooks shifted slightly, then glanced at me. Ma'am, would you like him formally trespassed from the property? The question hung in the air. Simple. Final. I could feel David tense up immediately. Come on, he said under his breath. You are not going to do that. I did not answer right away. I looked past him at the street, at the neighbors who were still pretending not to watch. Then I looked back at my son, 40 years old, standing there like a stranger who thought he could rewrite my life without asking. No, I said finally. David let out a breath, shoulders dropping slightly. Relief. Too soon. But, I added, my voice steady, he is not coming back here without my permission. The relief disappeared just as fast as it came. Officer Brooks nodded once. Understood, he said. Sir, you heard her. David swallowed. So that is it? He asked, looking at me again. After everything? I tilted my head slightly. After everything you just tried to do? I asked back. He did not answer. He could not. I took one step back toward the door. My door. You made your decision, I said. Now I am making mine. He stood there for another second like he wanted to say something else, like he was searching for the right words to fix what had already broken. But nothing came out. Finally he turned, walked down the path, did not look back. I watched him go, not as a mother watching her son leave, but as a homeowner watching someone walk off her property. Then I stepped inside, closed the door behind me, and this time it stayed mine. I locked the door gently, not because I was afraid he would come back, but because I needed to hear that sound. That quiet click. Final. Certain. For a moment I just stood there in the hallway, my hand still resting on the handle. The house felt different. The same walls. The same furniture. But something had shifted. Something had been taken back. I walked slowly into the living room, past the couch where David used to fall asleep as a teenager, past the window where my husband used to stand every Sunday morning with his coffee. I did not rush. I let myself feel it. Every step. Every breath. Then I sat down. Not heavily. Not like I was exhausted. Just steady. Like I had finally reached the end of something. Or maybe the beginning. My phone buzzed on the table beside me. I did not need to look. I already knew who it was. I let it ring once. Twice. Then I picked it up. Mom. David's voice came through, tighter now, controlled but strained. We need to talk about this. I did not respond right away. I leaned back slightly, looking around the room. Still mine. We already did, I said. Silence on the other end. Then a short exhale. No, we did not, he said. That was not a conversation. That was you shutting me out. I almost smiled at that. You called the police on me, I replied. That is not exactly how conversations usually start. Another pause. Longer this time. I thought you were going to ruin everything, he said finally. That caught my attention. Ruin what? I asked. He hesitated, then said it. The house. The assets. Everything Dad left. I closed my eyes for a second. There it was. Not concern. Not care. Control. Numbers. Ownership. Your father did not leave those things to you, I said quietly. He trusted me with them. And you are getting older, David snapped. You cannot pretend that is not a factor. I sat up a little straighter. Not offended. Just done pretending I did not hear what he was really saying. Getting older does not mean giving up everything, I said. It does not mean handing my life over because it is more convenient for you. He did not respond immediately. I could hear him breathing on the other end, thinking, calculating, still trying to find a way back in. I was trying to protect what is ours, he said. I shook my head even though he could not see me. That is where you are wrong, I said. You were trying to take what is mine. Silence again. Heavy. Final. Then his voice quieter now. So what happens now? I looked around the room one more time. The photos. The memories. The life I built. Now, I said slowly, things stay exactly the way they are supposed to be. He did not argue this time. He did not push. He just stayed quiet. And that told me everything I needed to know. The conversation was over. I ended the call, set the phone down, and for the first time in a long time, I was not waiting for someone else to decide what happened next. The house stayed quiet after that call. Too quiet. The kind of silence that makes you notice every little sound you usually ignore. The clock ticking in the hallway, the refrigerator humming in the kitchen, my own footsteps echoing a little louder than before. I walked into the kitchen and poured myself a glass of water, my hands steady now, not shaking like they had earlier on the porch. I took a sip and leaned against the counter, staring out the window into the backyard. The same yard where David used to run around as a kid, chasing a plastic ball, laughing like nothing in the world could ever go wrong. I stayed there for a long moment just thinking, not about what he did. That part was clear now, but about when things changed. Because something had changed. It does not happen overnight. It never does. It builds slowly. Small moments. Small decisions. Things you ignore because it is easier than facing them. I set the glass down and walked back into the living room. My eyes landed on a stack of papers on the side table. Copies. Backups. Everything my lawyer told me to keep close after I made that call last week. I picked them up, flipping through them again even though I already knew what they said. Ownership. Control. Protection. Words that suddenly meant a lot more than they used to. My phone buzzed again. This time I checked. A message from David. Just one line. We are not done with this. I stared at it for a second. Then I set the phone back down without replying. That was his way. Always pushing. Always thinking there was another angle. Another move. But this was not a game anymore. Not for me. I walked over to the front window and looked out toward the street. His car was gone now. The space where he had been standing earlier looked empty. Like nothing had happened. But I knew better. Things had changed. And they were not going back. I turned away from the window and took a slow breath. Then I made another call. Not to argue. Not to explain. To prepare. Hello, this is Margaret Collins, I said when the line connected. I would like to move forward with the next steps we discussed. Pause on the other end. Then a calm voice. Professional. Certain. Of course, Miss Collins. Are you ready to proceed? I looked around the room one more time. The house. My house. Every inch of it held a memory. But now it also held something else. Boundaries. Yes, I said. I am. There was a brief shuffle of papers on the other end. Then we will begin with formal documentation to ensure no unauthorized claims can be made moving forward, the voice explained. This will include a legal notice and property protection filing. I nodded even though they could not see me. Do it, I said. No hesitation. No doubt. After I ended the call, I stood there for a moment. Just breathing. This was not about revenge. It was not about winning. It was about making sure this never happened again. I walked to the front door and placed my hand on it again. The same door from this morning. The same place everything changed. Only now, I was not the one being told to leave. I was the one deciding who stayed. I did not expect him to come back so soon. But the next morning, just after 9, I heard a car slow down outside. Not pass by. Stop. I did not rush to the window. I already knew. I stood in the kitchen, finishing my coffee, letting the moment come to me instead of chasing it. Then came the knock. Not loud. Not aggressive. Just controlled. Like he was. Trying a different approach. I set the mug down and walked to the door. Slow. Steady. When I opened it, David was standing there again. Same clothes as yesterday. Same tension in his shoulders. But something was different. He was not smiling this time. "Mom," he said. No accusation. No confidence. Just the word. I did not step aside. I stayed in the doorway. "What do you want, David?" I asked. He glanced past me into the house like he was checking if anything had changed overnight. It had. He just could not see it yet. "We need to fix this," he said, "before it gets worse." I almost asked him what he thought worse looked like. But I did not. I let him keep talking. "I spoke to someone," he continued. "There might still be a way to resolve the paperwork. Maybe we can redo the transfer. Do it the right way this time." I just looked at him. Really looked at him. And there it was again. Not concern. Not regret. Strategy. He was still trying to find a way to make it his. "No," I said. "Simple. Clear. Final." He blinked. "You did not even hear what I heard enough yesterday," I cut in. My voice stayed calm. That seemed to bother him more than anything. "You are overreacting," he said, the edge coming back now. "I am trying to think long term. You cannot live here alone forever." I leaned slightly against the doorframe. Not defensive. Just steady. "And you decided that meant taking it from me?" I asked. He exhaled sharply. "That is not what I said." I did not respond. I let the silence stretch again. He shifted his weight. Looked away. Then back at me. "You are making this harder than it needs to be," he said. That line again. Like repeating it would make it true. I shook my head slightly. "No," I said. "I am making it clear." His jaw tightened. "So that is it? You just cut me out." That word. Cut. Like I was the one who started this. I held his gaze. "You walked yourself out yesterday," I said. Quiet. Direct. He did not answer right away. He just stood there, searching my face for something. Anything that looked like doubt. There was none. Finally, he took a step back. "Not forced this time. Chosen. You are going to regret this," he said. Not loud. Not angry. Just cold. I did not react. I had already heard worse. He turned and walked away again. Slower this time. No rush. No confidence. Just distance. I watched him reach his car, open the door and stop for a second before getting in. Like he was thinking. Like he was realizing something he should have understood a long time ago. Then he drove off. I closed the door again. Same sound. Same final click. But this time it did not feel like the end of a confrontation. It felt like the end of an illusion. And I was no longer the one being pushed out of my own life. 3 weeks passed. No calls. No messages. No unexpected cars slowing down in front of the house. The silence that once felt heavy had settled into something else. Peace. Real peace. I kept my routine simple. Morning coffee by the window. A short walk down the block. Afternoons spent sorting through old boxes I had ignored for years. Not because I had to. Because I wanted to. Everything in this house felt different now. Not because it changed. But because I did. One afternoon I found an old photo tucked inside a drawer in the hallway. David, maybe 8 years old, standing in the backyard holding a baseball glove too big for his hand. Smiling like the world was still simple. I sat there for a moment holding that picture, remembering a version of him that did not look at me like an obstacle. I did not feel angry. That part had already passed. What I felt was clarity. The kind that does not come from winning. It comes from finally seeing things exactly as they are. My phone buzzed again. This time a different number. Unknown. I let it ring once before answering. "Hello." There was a pause. Then his voice. Softer than before. Careful. "Mom, it is me." I did not say anything right away. I let him sit in that silence. Let him feel it. "I am not calling to argue," he added quickly. "I just wanted to check on you." I looked out the window. The same street. The same house. Still mine. "I am fine," I said. My voice was calm. Not cold. Just certain. Another pause. Longer this time. "I know I messed up," he said finally. The words sounded unfamiliar coming from him. Like he was not used to saying them. I did not rush to respond. I let him finish. "I thought I was doing the right thing," he continued. I thought if I did not step in, things would fall apart. I nodded slightly, even though he could not see me. Things did not fall apart, I said. You just tried to take control before you understood what you were taking. Silence again. But this time it was different. Not tense. Not defensive. Just quiet. I should not have done that, he said. I believed him. Not because of what he said, but because of how he said it. No pressure. No angle. Just truth. I took a slow breath. No, I said. You should not have. Another pause. Then more carefully. Is there any way to fix this? I looked down at the photo in my hand, then back out the window. I thought about everything that had happened, not just that day, but everything leading up to it. Trust does not break all at once, and it does not come back that way either. That depends, I said slowly, on whether you understand what this was really about. He did not answer right away. I could hear him thinking. Not rushing this time. Not pushing. Just listening. Finally, he said, "It was never just about the house, was it?" I almost smiled. No, I said. It was not. And for the first time since all of this started, it felt like he was finally beginning to understand.